In this video, we are looking at clarity, and this pertains to when we are entering projects or tasks into the project or task management system. Now, clarity I see as the most important aspect of entering the items. Lack of clarity is definitively one of the major barriers to actually moving any project or task forward. In regards to all the work that actually needs to be done, clarity is a majority of the time where people spend in regards to actually making the decision to move it forward. So, in regards to clarity, we're going to review first what must be done for each project or task for clarity to actually happen. Now, the first part is it being very, very descriptive. You want to write down every end task as if everything is handed off to a employee or personal assistant, and they actually need to know what it means to move it forward. By using a verb and a detailed explanation goes the distance. For example, some people might write in restaurant X or birthday mom versus saying, hey, call mom regarding setting a date to meet up for the birthday. Or call restaurant, look up info online for restaurant X and call them to make reservations. Number two is it truly the chunked down next action which can move it forward? Chunking down, chunking down, chunking down. You hear it going from goals to projects, and to keep continually chunking it down until you are getting to the very end definitive next action which can move it forward. And we'll be able to show you a couple different ways inside of Todoist which you can use to chunk the items down. Now, the third thing is, once it's fully chunked down, that it actually has a label. And in the prior videos, we talked about what labels were. Oops. And the last part, once it has a label, is it assigned to one of the big projects or simply falling under the personal or work umbrella? When it comes to chunking down all the way, there are one of two ways. First of all is using dashes. And the key task is written at the beginning, and it's never checked off until it is finally done, and you can keep editing it. So, for example, on more simple work or personal tasks where there's just one or a few steps involved, let's look at this example. For example, I have ran out of room for a bunch of office supplies, so I need to set up a spot for holding all my office supplies. Now, what do I have to really do to move it forward? I can keep using dashes. It's a chunk down method. And my next true action is I want to go pick up some new bins at Target. Now, like I said, when you're using dashes, you never want to erase the first part or even mark this off as done because it's not really done. You can keep this part of it. So when I actually go to pick up the bins and I'm all said and done and I'm actually back at home, I can now say set up bins at home and organize. The principle of that is you always want to keep your placeholder for your project or task, always knowing that you're responsible for moving it forward. Now, another example is, let's say I need to set up some birthday plans. And, okay, what I got to do to move it forward, I'm going to make reservations at a restaurant. Okay, what do I got to do to move that forward? I'm not really sure which restaurant I'm going to use yet, so I'm going to look online for the best options. Now, when that's said and done, let's say I actually go look online, look at some best options, and I find one. I'm actually going to maybe change that to say, hey, I'm going to call restaurant X, regarding reservations. Boom. And when that's done, maybe I've made the reservations and I'm all done, and I can just rewrite it to say, hey, I have the reservations, and I'm going to call mom and dad regarding the times. Boom, you can drop in the reservations into your calendar and simply move forward. But that rule of thumb is, hey, keep using dashes to get down to clarity. It's very simple, and you can keep editing it, and never erase this beginning part until you are actually truly complete. Now, the other method to getting to fully chunk down is using the indents. So we'll take the two examples from above. Let's say I have to set up spots for holding my office supplies. Now I'm just going to use the indent function and say, hey, I have to go to Target. Oops. Get bins at Target. Boom. That's completely chunked down. Now the next one is I'm going to have to set up my birthday plans. Excuse my misspellings. And the next thing I have to do is make reservations at a restaurant. And the next chunk down version is I have to look online for the best options. So those are the two methods where you can get chunked down. Like I said, for simplicity's sake, when you're working with very easy projects and tasks, keep using the dash. This way it keeps it very simple, organized, and you don't have to have a whole bunch of actually items and tasks going all the way throughout. Now the last example is for much bigger projects. So for example, let's say we have to have a new hire, and we're going to jump into that. You can use a combination of indents and or dashes to get clarifications. When you're inside of a bigger project, you just mind dump. So let's say we need to place some ads. What do I got to do to actually move that forward? I don't even know. We can't really place the ad yet until I get down to the role qualification. So I could say, hey, I have to make some job role qualifications. I also need to say talk to head of operations regarding the need to double check that. Let's say I can call Betty regarding her friend as a possibility and get that number. And as you can imagine, with a project like new hire or taxes, you're going to have your own sub-level project and even a couple underneath it and a myriad of either using dashes or indents to really move it forward. So once again, to get completely chunked down, you can use a combination of dashes for the easy one and or indents, and for a little bit bigger projects, dropping in a project name and using that as a holding place for everything. Now, once you have your true chunk down next action to be able to move it forward, the third and final step of having clarity is it has to have a label. And the label is the tool or location to move it forward. And it's under here. And by assigning a label, you can simply use the @ sign. So we are going to go through and use the prior examples of having clarity, getting it fully chunked down, and then using a label. So once again here, I have to set up a spot for my supplies. So first of all, I have to actually go and get the bins, get bins from Target. Now, one of the labels would be @town. Boom, it's done. And calling mom and dad regarding the times for birthday, that would be at the phone. Setting up spot for holding my office supplies, same example. I wouldn't use a label here because it's not the true chunk down next action. It would be here. Hey, I have to get the bins at Target, @town. Normally, once you start to type it in, you type in the word @ sign, there will be a drop-down menu which pops in, so it's really fast to enter which label goes with it. For example, here, set up birthday plans. Got to make reservations at a restaurant, and I'm going to look online for the best options. That's going to be at my computer, which will pop up in the drop-down menu. And once that next action changes and you complete it, you can simply update it. So for example, in this one, hey, say we got the bins from Target and everything's at home, and I haven't completed it yet. The new label is going to be at home. Here, acted like as if I called mom regarding the times, and we're basically good to go. Hey, we do have the birthday plans, so I could actually just erase that, and we are good to go. And it'll be all about, hey, I have my birthday coming up. Here, you would just be deleting it and say, hey, what's the next action to move it forward with the label? Here, let's say you're going to look online for the best options. You actually found them. Next thing you know, you're going to, let's say, call, call Restaurant X regarding reservations. And it's got to be done like at the phone. So it's all about the three major things: being extremely descriptive, getting completely chunked down, and once it's chunked down, to actually assigning a label which is going to move it forward. And final spot, simple, hey, it's got to fall under a project. That's easy to do. You can drop it under any bigger project or just into the personal or work folders. So once the mind dump is complete and you grab all of your inboxes, everything that's going on, all the inboxes and all your notes, easily over 90% of it, in order to get a stakeholder, is going to fall into the project and task management system. This, taking all the notes and getting processing, and especially spending and getting to the knowledge of clarity and acting with it, this is where so much time is spent at first. As people are writing in things and really sitting with them and saying, hey, what is this actually a part of? Is this part of a bigger level project? If so, let's keep getting that in. And truly, does this actually have clarity? Is it descriptive? Is it truly chunked down? And does it have a label, and then boom, you can move it forward. But definitely in the first meeting, this is where even up to a couple hours can be spent, and your brain is just working this new process over and over and over again to get extremely fast at all this is on a chunked up level is decisiveness and the ability to drop things into a system so that it can move forward. And as you can imagine, that is an important aspect of what leadership is. Hey, in comes the inbox, whether if it's the email, the conversation, the idea, getting very decisive really quick. What does this mean? It dropping into the project and task management system or anywhere else, and getting extreme clarity to move it forward and being able to process that inbox. Then boom, it's in, it starts moving forward. Clarity, clarity, clarity. So much emphasis on clarity. So now that all of the other processes are done all the way to clarity, you can now see the full flow chart of deciding if it's critical, no, it's dropping into the someday maybe folder, and if it is actionable, it's hopping into one of the system parts, and 90% of the time, outside of the recurring or the calendar, 90% of the time the item is at least going into the project and task management system to get a stakeholder in the ground so that you always remember that it exists and to drop down into clarity and move it forward. This is what processing is all about, processing all of your inboxes. And so now we can move forward and work hand in hand to keep processing all your inboxes to really learn that incredible skill of becoming decisive and an extremely flexible leader.